So today we're making menudo. Normally we make menudo on the weekends. Typically in the past it's been made for celebrations, and at restaurants you can normally find on the weekends because that's when they make it. It's a long process to make menudo, but it's a delicious soup that was, I think, originated in central Mexico. Just really, if you look up any stories, there's really no way to really figure out where it originated from, but I do know that it's considered a poor man's soup. That's why it was created, because a lot of the pieces from the cows after they were butchered, a lot of things that weren't used went to the poor chefs, and that's where they came up with the soup of menudo using the beef tripe. Menudo is mainly consisted of beef tripe and beef feet. So today we're only gonna use beef tripe, but you can find it in a bag like this. Normally you can find honeycomb tripe, which is a longer piece. And you may be asking, what is beef tripe? For those of you that don't know, it is the cow's stomach. You can find it in a longer piece where you cut it. And I'll do that later, maybe in a future video if you're interested to see how to clean it and cut it. We'll buy a bigger piece and do that on our own. But for now, we bought this bag at our local grocery store where you can find it already cubed. Now we're gonna take this out of the bag and cut it just a little bit more, just so there's smaller pieces when we make this stew. All right, so I have a bigger pot here where I'm gonna go ahead and transfer all this beef tripe into, but for now, I'm gonna go ahead and put all my beef tripe here on the cutting board. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it just a bit smaller, not too much. Now, it comes frozen, but as it thaws out, it'll fall apart very easy like that. So you can maybe just do that. I think that's what I'm gonna do now. Normally it's frozen, but I've left it out to thaw a little bit because I wanted it to be a little bit easier to work with. This one's still a little bit frozen, so I'm just gonna cut those, and I'm just cutting them into pieces like this and tossing them in my pot here. Menudo is usually a meal that's reserved for the weekends or special occasions because it does take a while to make menudo. It's about a 4-hour process making it from scratch, and that's what we're doing today. We're gonna make the chile paste and all that to put into the menudo. Now you can buy a spice mixture that they already sell in the stores, and it shortens the process to about 2 hours, so you can make it quite a bit faster. But I like doing it from scratch. It comes out with a lot of flavor, especially when you're making the chili paste by yourself. It tastes absolutely delicious. So the first process in this is we're gonna go ahead and fill this with water, put this on the stove, and let it cook for about a good hour. And then we're gonna drain it so all that excess fat that comes up to the top is no longer in the soup. And some people like to do that as well because some people don't like the taste of the stomach of the cow. So we drain it and get rid of that stuff that comes up to the top of the pot here. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill this up with water, put this on the stove, and we'll check in about an hour. In the meantime, I'm gonna make the chili paste for you guys. So we got the tripe on the stove. We're gonna let that cook for about 1 hour. You're gonna bring it up to a boil and then let it simmer for about a good hour. In the meantime though, we're gonna make our chili paste. And legend has it that menudo cures hangovers. That's the legend right there. And I think mainly it's because of the chiles that's in there. You have some chile guajillo and some chile árbol, which is a good amount of spice. And if your menudo is not spicy, then you probably missed a little bit of the chili in there, because it should have some spice, not enough to be overly hot, but a good amount that it's gonna taste delicious. And you're gonna be able to taste everything else inside that menudo as well. So we're gonna use some chile guajillo here. We're gonna use about 10 of these right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull out 10 of these. Now the chile guajillo has a bit of a sweet, smoky smell, almost like a chipotle. And this is gonna give a delicious flavor to it. Now the chile árbol, we're gonna use about 6 of these. This is a little bit hotter and you can definitely smell it. This is what's gonna give it that heat to your menudo. Now, depending on how hot you want it, you can definitely use a little bit more, you can use a little bit less. If you're gonna use less, I would recommend maybe 3 or 4 of them. If you want it a good amount of spice, I normally use 6 of them. That's just the right amount for me. And if you want it hotter, you can go 7 or 8 of them. But you know, these chiles are just like any other chile. Some are hotter than others, especially when they're dried. So adding a little bit more may make it overly hot, and that's something you can definitely negate. Once it's done cooking, you can add a little bit more heat to it with some peppers if you want, but I normally stick to about 6 of them. All right, so the first thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna de-seed all these chiles. Now, being that they're dry, it's a little bit easier because you can just basically shake them out, take out the membrane, and just set these aside here. And we're gonna do that to all 10 of these guajillos and the 6 chile de árbol, and I'll move on to the next step. All right, so now that the tedious process of removing the seeds from the chiles is over, we're gonna move on to the next step, and that is taking 1 onion. All we're gonna do is we're gonna have the onion, remove the ends, discard that, and I like to peel away the top layer of the onion. Put that aside there. And this one, put that aside there. And then we're gonna take some garlic cloves. Now with the garlic cloves, you can use 3 small garlic cloves, or if you have garlic cloves, like mine's are a little bit huge, I'm using 2 of these because I don't need 3. All I'm gonna do is cut the ends off here and peel them, because these are gonna get roasted along with the chiles. Now, with the chiles, if you weren't able to remove all the seeds, no worries. It's just an easier process to get rid of as many seeds as possible, because once we're done roasting and cooking these in water for a little bit, we're gonna go ahead and put it in a blender, and then we're gonna strain it as well. So it'll remove a lot of stuff. Like I said, just removing some of those seeds makes the process a little bit easier than it is with all the seeds in there. We're gonna go ahead and heat up our pan on the stove just a bit. We're gonna put our chiles on there and let them roast for about 30 seconds. Then we're gonna add our onion and our garlic cloves. I'm gonna fill that up with some water just above the chiles and the onion, and let that go for about 15 minutes. So I let my chiles, onion, and garlic actually simmer for about 30 minutes rather than 15. And I went ahead and went 30 minutes because I want them nice and soft. So after they've done that, I'm gonna go ahead and get my blender here. I'm gonna transfer all of my chiles, onion, and garlic into the blender here. What we're also gonna do is we're gonna take about a cup of the broth that's left over from the chilies, onion, and garlic, and we're gonna pour that into the blender as well. So, all right, the last thing I'm adding in here is comino, cumin. I'm doing about 2.5 teaspoons. You could definitely add 3 if you like the taste of cumin. I don't want it overly powering the chili paste here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and add 2.5. And once I do that, I'm gonna put my lid back on the blender here. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and puree this on high and blend it enough to where we can fit that through a sieve, a strainer, or in my case, what I'm using is some cheesecloth. All right, so now that that's pureed quite a bit, I like to do is I like to taste. I wanna make sure that I have the right consistency and heat in this here. And right now it's tasting pretty good. I sense a little bit of a tingle from the heat there, but it's just enough to where I can tell it's not gonna be overly hot, but it's not gonna be mild also. All right, so what I wanna do now is I wanna go ahead and pour a little bit at a time here on my cheesecloth. Then what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna compress it a little bit because I wanna get all the chili sauce out of there. And that's mainly what we're looking for right there, is we're looking for that there, and we're gonna discard whatever's left. After that process, you're gonna be left over with this right here. This is the chili sauce that's gonna go in the menudo. This is where all the heat and flavor of that chile is gonna come from. But we're gonna go ahead and refrigerate this until we're ready to add it to the menudo. Now, what you're gonna be left over with is a lot of chili paste. You can definitely reuse this. You can use it if you wanna make some homemade chili. I'm not gonna be using it. I don't plan on making chili anytime soon, so I'm gonna go ahead and discard this. And besides, it won't last very long in the fridge, so we're gonna go ahead and discard that. In the meantime, we're gonna put this in the fridge and wait for our menudo to finish. Actually, it's been about an hour, so I'm gonna go ahead and drain that because I wanna get rid of that water. Like I said, you wanna go ahead and clean that menudo, drain it out completely. We're gonna fill it up about 3/4 of the way and add the rest of our ingredients. Okay, so the water's drained, added about 3/4 of the way. The next thing I'm going to add, because this is where it's crucial that you add these ingredients. So I'm gonna add 5 tablespoons of kosher salt, 5 teaspoons of oregano, and we're gonna add about 20 peppercorns. And then last but not least is we're gonna add 3 cloves of garlic. Okay, so I almost forgot, I have one more ingredient I have to add at this stage, and it's the yellow onion. So I've got a yellow onion that I've quartered. I'm adding that to the mix as well. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put this back on the stove, bring it up to a boil and let it simmer for about another hour before I start adding the chili sauce and the hominy. And then it's gonna cook for an additional 2 hours, and then we'll be ready to eat this menudo. So we're down to about 2 hours to go. It's smelling good with the herbs, everything else that's in there. The next thing we're going to add now, because there's 2 hours to go, is we're gonna add our hominy. So there's 2 types of hominy. There's white hominy and there's golden hominy. I like to use the gold. It's all preference. You can add as much as you want. I add 2 cans of the 17.5 ounce because the family definitely loves the hominy, and I'll add a little bit of extra hominy in there. The next thing I'm going to add is I'm going to add our chili sauce. This is gonna give the menudo that red color that looks so beautiful, and it's gonna add that spiciness and that extra flavor to the menudo. Once I add that in there, I'm gonna go ahead and stir it around a bit. All right, so now that that's in there, I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of beef broth. Now I got the lower sodium beef broth because I don't want it too salty. I've already added quite a bit of salt. And again, salt's always to preference, but I'm getting the lower sodium so it doesn't add any extra salt to it. And I'm gonna put about half of this in there. I don't wanna put the whole thing in there. I just wanna bring my pot up to maybe about a ½ inch from the top of it because it's gonna render down quite a bit as I'm letting it simmer. And this is just gonna give that added beef flavor to the menudo here. One thing I do want to mention before I continue is with the hominy, make sure you drain your hominy before you put it in there. You don't want that extra juice from the hominy in there. You want to drain it completely and then add the hominy to the menudo. All right, so we're going to let this, we're going to bring it up just a bit, and then we're going to simmer it and let it simmer for about 2 more hours, and then we should be ready to go. Okay, so after 4 hours, our menudo is finally done, and it is smelling delicious. Brings me back to when I was younger. It's been about 20 years since we've been in San Antonio, but this is something we definitely ate a lot on the weekends, going to the restaurant, ordering some menudo. And like I said, legend has it that it cures some hangovers, and I won't say that I've had it quite a few times to try to remedy that. But the menudo is absolutely delicious. You can smell all the combination of flavors that we have in there. Now, with the menudo, you can go ahead and garnish it with a few different things. I like to put a little bit of cilantro, some raw onion, diced up, and then I like to squeeze a little bit of lemon in my menudo. Again, salt and pepper, you can always use that to taste. It's all preference after it's done. But right now, from what I'm getting, it's smelling delicious. I tasted it about an hour before it was ready just to see what the flavor combination was like. And it's absolutely delicious. So I'm gonna go ahead and first, I'm gonna taste the juice. And I love when it has these little oily spots in there. That tells you that the flavors are gonna be just great. There's not too much fat from the tripe in there, and it's just equally balanced. So tasting the soup, it's absolutely delicious. I can taste a little bit of the heat, but the heat's gonna come when you start to grab spoonfuls of this. Now, when can you tell that it's done? When you can tell it's done is when the tripe is not too hard, but not too soft. It's a little bit chewy where it kind of melts in your mouth, but it's not too tough to chew on and eat. That's when you know it's quite done. And the hominy is also soft and not too hard as well. And go ahead and give it a whole taste right here. Soft like butter. Absolutely delicious. It came out great. The heat is definitely there, something that I like. The flavors are definitely there, and the salt is just perfect. Again, I use a less sodium beef broth because you don't want to oversalt this. You can always add some salt to it later, but you don't want to oversalt it. The kosher salt is definitely enough in the beginning, and then adding the beef broth gives it a nice flavor. Don't add any extra sodium to it unless you really love salty food. But this is just perfect. It tastes absolutely delicious. As I said earlier, normally we do this for the weekends. Preferably we cook this on a Saturday because it's an all-day affair, and then we eat it on Sunday morning because that's something we typically do. But I did this for the video. We did it all day. As you can see, it's getting kind of dark in here. I'm actually doing this. We use a sliding door here, and it's kind of dark here at night. So it's getting close to dinner time. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and eat this for dinner today because it was an all-day thing where everyone's excited to eat it. Everyone loves it. Something great to enjoy, something great to eat. So again, we'll definitely save some of this because I made plenty. We will probably eat this for brunch tomorrow, which is Sunday. So we'll be enjoying this well throughout tomorrow during lunch as well. But that's going to be it, guys. It's a quick and easy menudo recipe. You can add all kinds of stuff to it. There's all kinds of recipes you can find out there, but this is what I like the best. This is your typical menudo that you would get at a restaurant or even going down to Mexico and finding some actual menudo that they make. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's a great recipe. Go ahead and try it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.